listen to this alone in the dark. I was sitting in a hard plastic chair in the emergency room when the night started to feel wrong. Not because of pain or panic, but because of how quiet everything suddenly became. Hospitals are never silent, not really. There's always something humming, rolling, beeping, or coughing somewhere nearby. But at some point after midnight, the sounds thinned out until it felt like the building was holding its breath, and I remember looking down the empty hallway and thinking it felt deeper than it should have. I wasn't there for anything dramatic. A minor injury, something that didn't feel important enough to complain about, but still bad enough that they told me to wait. I watched nurses move past without looking at me, watched stretchers roll by with curtains drawn, and eventually I realized I'd been sitting there long enough that the lights above me had started to buzz. The clock on the wall said 2:17, and I hadn't seen anyone in several minutes. That's when I noticed the sound. It was faint, almost easy to miss, like rubber soles sticking briefly to the floor and peeling away again. I assumed it was a nurse at first, maybe someone walking slowly, but when I leaned forward and looked down the hallway, there was no one there. The corridor stretched on longer than I remembered, doors lining both sides, all of them closed, all of them dark except for the thin line of light leaking from underneath one near the end. The sound came again, slow, even, deliberate, not hurried like hospital staff, not uneven like a patient. I shifted in my chair, suddenly aware of how alone I was, and told myself the noise was probably a cart being moved somewhere out of sight. Hospitals are big, sounds travel. That explanation should have been enough, but my chest felt tight anyway, and I kept watching the hallway as the sound moved closer. I realized it wasn't footsteps. It was dragging. Whatever was making the noise wasn't lifting its feet properly, just sliding them along the floor in a way that made my skin crawl. The sound stopped directly in front of the door with the light underneath it, and for a few seconds, nothing happened at all. Then the light under the door went out, like someone had switched it off from inside. I stood up without meaning to. I didn't call out. I didn't look for help. I just stood there, staring, as the door at the end of the hall opened slowly. The room beyond it was dark, but something darker stepped forward into the corridor light, tall enough that its head nearly brushed the ceiling tiles. It didn't wear scrubs. It didn't look injured. Its shape was wrong in a way that made my eyes struggle to understand it. Its skin looked pale and flat, like it reflected too little light, stretched tight over a frame that didn't match human proportions. Its arms hung too low at its sides, fingers nearly grazing the floor, and when it lifted its head, I saw its eyes were set too deep, dark and empty, fixed directly on me. It didn't blink. It didn't tilt its head. It just stood there, blocking the hallway like it belonged to the building. I think I've been waiting a while. The words sounded stupid the second I said them. The thing didn't react to my voice at all, but it took one slow step forward, the dragging sound returning as its foot slid across the floor. The noise echoed through the empty corridor, loud enough now that I expected someone to come running, but no one did. I backed away toward the waiting room, my heel bumping into the chair behind me. The thing stopped when I stopped, like it was measuring distance, not chasing. Its presence made the air feel heavier, thicker, and I realized with a sick drop in my stomach that it wasn't moving randomly. It was keeping me exactly where it wanted me. The lights flickered, just once, enough to make my heart jump. When they steadied, the hallway behind the thing looked longer, deeper, like it extended farther than the hospital possibly could. Doors that hadn't been there before lined the walls, all of them shut, all of them identical, and the thing took another step forward, dragging sound matching the rhythm of my breathing. No. The word slipped out quietly, and the thing stopped immediately. The silence that followed was worse than the sound, pressing in on my ears until they rang. I realized then that it was listening, not just to me, but to the building, to the space, to everything moving inside it. A nurse appeared behind me without warning. I nearly jumped out of my skin when she spoke, asking if I was ready to be seen, and I turned toward her so fast my neck hurt. I started talking too quickly, trying to explain, pointing down the hallway, but when I looked back, the corridor was empty. No dragging sound, no figure, just closed doors and buzzing lights. She followed my gaze and frowned, then told me I must be exhausted. She guided me down a different hallway, away from where I'd been sitting, and led me into an exam room. The door closed behind us with a soft click, and I tried to calm my breathing as she left me alone again, promising someone would be in shortly. I sat on the exam table and waited. The room felt smaller than it should have, the walls too close, the ceiling too low. I stared at the door, listening to the sounds outside, and that's when I heard the dragging again, faint but unmistakable, coming from the hallway beyond the room. The handle on the door didn't move. Instead, the sound traveled along the wall, slow and deliberate, like something sliding its hand along the surface. The noise paused directly behind my head, and I felt the air grow cold as a shadow passed under the door, taller than the door frame itself. The door opened, not from the handle, but like it was being pulled open from the other side without using it. The thing stood there, filling the doorway, blocking the hall light behind it. Up close, its proportions were even worse. Its body too long, its chest barely moving as it breathed in a slow, shallow rhythm. I tried to move, but my legs wouldn't listen. The thing stepped into the room, dragging sound echoing against the tile, and I realized then that the nurse hadn't saved me. She'd moved me. She'd delivered me somewhere quieter, somewhere smaller. The door closed behind it, on its own. If you're listening to this, and you're sitting in a hospital late at night, pay attention to the halls that feel too long, and the rooms that feel too quiet. If you have a horror story of your own, please feel free to drop it in the comments section. You never know, the next story could be yours. Subscribe to The Vault and never walk alone again.